starts the night at running back. The true freshman, as Patterson will throw, now going to have to scramble. Room to run, and a first down. The ball popping.
Not the ideal first play of the game. Let's look at Middle Tennessee State real quick. Really all four defensive linemen slanting to their left here. This defensive end is going to kind of wait before getting to the outside. The goal is for this defensive tackle to occupy the right tackle before this guy engages anybody to try to get a free rusher off the bottom of your screen here. Finally, this outside linebacker, number 6, is coming alongside outside the C gap here. So, you'll notice Michigan handles it pretty well. Let's cover their pass protection here. Hayes kind of out here for this blitzer. Everyone else kind of follows the slanting of Middle Tennessee State. Mayfield initially making contact with this defensive tackle, so that you'd think that would free up this rusher off the edge. Eventually he will bounce over to help here, and he'll pass this defensive tackle off to Onwenu. Then you have Charbonnet filling in here as well to help with this edge rusher. So they all do a pretty good job. No issues. It's a pretty clean pocket. The only guy that really gets any sort of movement is Ruiz's nose guard here. But still, at the time that Patterson's bugging out, he really could stay an extra second or two if he wanted. No pressure's really there. Looking at routes, it's a little hard to tell. You have an inside release, what I believe just a crossing route here, in route, whatever you want to call it, from Tariq Black. You have sort of a, I believe it's called a snag, so it's kind of a slant, open hips to the quarterback, head towards the sideline here. And then you have two routes from the tight ends here that are, I'm guessing this is going to be like a post route, deep post, and then probably just a outside release fly route from McCune. So whatever the routes downfield are with the coverage, Patterson doesn't really like it. You could argue Bell is a little open here. I think he is trying to get baited by this defensive back that's just off screen here. Whatever it is, he didn't like it. Took off. Not a bad decision. Just got to protect the football. Maybe dive a bit sooner or slide. Unfortunate that first play was a fumble. Not great, Bob.
He's coming in motion. The fake to McCaffrey. The give to Turner. And Turner.
First of a couple dual QB looks here. Didn't go as well as planned. Let's look at the bottom of the offensive line on this inside zone blocking scheme. McCune blocking to his left here. Mayfield kind of helping him out on this defensive end. And then this is really where the conflict comes in. You have Onwenu trying to help Ruiz on the nose guard here, which leaves this guy, the butt of this guy, 94, a free roamer to the backfield. So it looks like it's on Onwenu. He should be responsible for 94 here, I believe, as this double does kind of make sense, and Onwenu isn't looking to get to the second level. So I think it's Onwenu's job to get 94, who has a free path to the backfield now. Now, looking at the play side, you got Ruiz on the nose guard. You're going to have a double between Bradyson and Hayes. Hayes will drop off to pick up this linebacker who's flowing to the play. Good movement here from Ruiz. Great double here. They get inside leverage on this defensive end, and you can see that Hayes is falling off for the linebacker. So it's all right there. And then also you had Nico Collins on the outside picking up the cornerback. Looking at the backfield action here, McCaffrey on this jet motion here is supposed to do two things. You want to occupy this guy, make him process what's going on in the backfield, as well as hopefully getting this linebacker to flow to this action a little bit. It works on the edge. You can see 17 here. He's processing what's going on as the handoff is going. Linebacker kind of stays home, so he doesn't really flow as much this way as you would want. So finally, looking at Christian Turner's path here, given that 94 is already in the backfield, if you take him out of the equation, you see a really nice path being formed to the outside here, especially with Hayes getting up here, Collins on the outside. However, since 94 is there, he has to bubble out. That gives outside leverage to this linebacker. So then he has to cut back in to try to juke this linebacker who Hayes has to follow now to the outside. So given that he had that wasted motion, gives 94 an opportunity to trip him up as well. Only 3 yards looked like a bigger possibility there.
For a second and then said, or maybe not.
Strange, he usually reveals so much as McCaffrey.
Similar action of last play with the fake jet sweep here to McCaffrey, who's going to turn it into a screen pass and then turn around the fake inside handoff for the zone here. Obviously, all the offensive linemen are selling a pass block here, so they're in screen mode. Timing looks good of this play. You know, the timing of the throw is all there. McCaffrey ran this appropriately. He's got appropriate depth, good fake, good timing, good throw. It's all there in terms of execution on that front. Let's look at the critical mistake here of Mayfield. Why is he still way back here? Other two linemen responsible for blocking on the play side here are already IDing their blocks correctly. And you have Mayfield here, who's just a beat too late. He's actually going to go for this lineman instead of this linebacker. So at the time of the catch here, you know, he's blocking this guy who was never really a threat to the play. 95 was already streaking over. If you had Mayfield closer to the line of scrimmage, he would be right here blocking this guy already, which creates a really nice path. But he's not there. Looking at Ruiz, he's IDing this guy. I would have liked to see him work down the line of scrimmage before getting out to this linebacker who has a speed advantage on him. He gets just enough of him to plant him in the ground with some help from Onwenu. And then finally looking at Onwenu's block. Again, I would like to see him kind of bubble this way a little bit more before picking up number 6 here on the edge. But he does get out there. This guy does fall over for whatever reason. So really it's all about Mayfield picking up this guy instead of 95, who eventually makes the tackle.
McCaffrey back on the sidelines on 3rd and 11. Patterson under heat.
Rough play from Hassan Haskins here. Let's look at the pass rush. Middle Tennessee State is sending 6. These 3 kind of slanting inside. This defensive lineman initially engage and then loop around through the B gap here. This defensive end crashing in, and then this outside linebacker blitzing as well. So that's 6 that they're bringing. Most difficult aspect for sure is this looping defensive tackle. Then when you has to kind of follow here. Let's look at how Michigan handles it. You have Mayfield, Bradison, Ruiz, all kind of slanting left, responsible for these 3 defensive linemen. Beyond that, you have when you initially engaged with this defense or nose guard or defense tackle, and then you have Mayfield picking up this defensive end. That leaves Haskins responsible for this outside linebacker blitzing. So a couple things to notice. Obviously, at this point, you have this looping lineman. Really tough job because then you either have to have Bradison pick this up and then a couple pass-offs. That doesn't happen, so Onwenu does his best to kind of shove this lineman this way to try to block the path of this looping lineman. Doesn't really work. And then Haskins gets kind of blown up here on the edge. Doesn't do a really good job. You can see clear path here. This is going to get home. If this wasn't here, you would have a path for Patterson to escape, given this looping action frees up a lot of zone over here. But fortunately, running back misses his block. Routes really quick. Outside, you have kind of a deep hitch, I think, from Tariq Black. You have a crossing route, a little bit more shallow than that, actually. A shallow crossing route from Ronnie Bell. You have this kind of sit route from St. Ristel. And then you have what I believe to be a deeper post, maybe a deeper crossing route out of Collins at the top of your screen. Looks like Patterson's eyes are first on this linebacker. Could be on a deeper safety down here, but I think it's actually directed at this guy. So he might be reading this first option. He sees that he's following Ronnie Bell. So at this point, I think he's ready to throw to St. Ristel in this sit route. Runs out of time.
Pressure coming. Patterson in trouble.
Middle Tennessee State gets to Patterson again, sending 6 on the rush here. 3 rushers at the top of the screen. You're going to have this little stunt between the defensive tackles. So this guy is going to crash inside while the defensive tackle loops around into the A gap here on the right side. And these 2 guys are coming as well. So 6 on pressure. Similar kind of action to last play. A little bit less dramatic of a stunt here. Let's look at how Michigan is at least drawn up the pass protection here. Mayfield picking up this outside most rusher, and then you have Onwenu on the second most. Ruiz is going to kick out a bit here on this defensive tackle. That leaves Bradison on this looper. Hayes to pick up the defensive end. Charbonnet to pick up number 6 on the edge. Left side does well, especially these 2 guys, so don't pay too much attention over here. I would say first look at Bradison chasing a little bit on this defensive tackle. So notice he doesn't really even get into a drop step. He's pushing, and he's already still closer to the line of scrimmage when everyone else has gotten to their drop step. So not the best. He's not in a good position to handle that twist. Mayfield at this point is starting to lose this block. Outside leverage is gone. This guy is getting a clear path to Patterson now. Bradison now is trying to gather on this defensive tackle in order for Ruiz to be able to shift to his outside shoulder to pick up this looper. He doesn't have leverage. Ruiz has to stay home. That's going to leave another rusher here. So those two combined, not great for protecting Patterson. As you can see, this guy fully got around Mayfield. Here you have the defensive tackle on the loop finally getting to Patterson, and they're both the main causes of the issue here. Identical post routes between Ronnie Bell and the outside Eubanks, and then you have just a weird route from Cornelius Johnson. It's an inside release out route that he's bracketed on. He's fighting through traffic, and then I think this is just a little sit route out of St. Ristel. Looks like Patterson is reading this safety. Seems like he's probably looking for this post route, and then he's looking over at Cornelius Johnson, not seeing a whole lot. By that time, pressure is getting to him. Doesn't have any options.
Patterson with pressure, and Patterson.
Frustrating sack here from a looping defensive tackle. Let's see what goes on for Middle Tennessee State's pass rush on the left side or right side of the defensive line. Bottom three guys are just rushing. This defensive tackle is one who eventually gets the sack. He's looping around the outside of Mayfield here. This is all set up by this defensive end who comes up before diving inside to try to get the tackle to follow, which he appropriately does. Let's move forward here a bit. So let's first take a look at the left side of Michigan's offensive line. They all do fine. One-on-one between Hayes, Bredesen, Ruiz. No issue on these three gentlemen. Let's just progress forward. See, it's a really nice front side pocket here for Patterson. No issue with those three guys. So here's where the conflict all arises. This guy's going to try to get Mayfield to engage before going inside as this guy loops. Onwenu does a good job of staying home, not following his guy. Right now is when this defensive end is crashing in. Ben Van Sumeren commits to this run block right away. I think he should have waited. Since he commits right now, this doesn't allow a whole lot of options given this guy is now looping around. So Mayfield's a bit out of position here. He followed too hard, and now this looping guy is an issue. Onwenu does have his eyes on him. I think he should be getting a little bit of depth given that Van Sumeren is now picking up this defensive end quite nicely. His eyes go back here. Mayfield has no leverage, and that guy gets a free pass to Patterson, picks up the sack, and you saw Onwenu here late. Try to pick him up, just a little too late. Okay, finally the routes. Hard to say because BTN, but this looks like a inside release post route. I believe you got a deep route. I have no idea what McCune's doing here. Then you have a little kind of sit snag route here from Ronnie Bell. It looks like Patterson is reading the safety, trying to get to Eubanks there, maybe Nico Collins, but it's too late. Sack.
On 2nd and 12, Patterson, off play action with time, looking for a deep shot.
Probably the most baffling throw of the day. Michigan keeps it in 7 to deal with 6 rushers from Middle Tennessee State. Let's look at what they're doing. 2 A-gap blitzes from the linebackers, and then nothing too fancy on the top sideline. So 6 pass rushers. Michigan's got 7 guys. They're keeping in McCune. They have True Wilson off play action and pass protection as well. Let's take a look at the bottom of the line. Starting with True Wilson, he's going to decide to come over and help McCune here on this outside. McCune has the outmost rusher here. They correctly adjust for the blitz, so you have Hayes on this defensive tackle. Bredesen is going to be watching for this linebacker coming into his A-gap, which he does. So take a look at those 4 guys. Good job by McCune in particular, and Bredesen picking up the blitz. So, nice clear path. True Wilson isn't really doing anything here, but it's the right move having him support the tight end in pass protection. The top of the line, you have Ruiz getting ready to accept this other A-gap blitzer. Then you have Onwenu and Mayfield on the right side on these 2 rushers. Again, they all do well to give adequate time for Patterson in the pocket. You could say Mayfield does lose late here. It's a good move. Defensive end from Middle Tennessee State. So there's late pressure, but it's beyond when the throw is coming out, so not a big issue here. Ronnie Bell's on a motion here. He is going out into the flat. Inside release, what looks like just a fly route. Seems like Patterson was expecting a post route, but he just runs straight up the field. And then you have a deep cross out of McCune here that goes beyond the line to gain here, around the 50-yard line. So I'll pause it at a couple points here throughout the pass here. So his eyes were on the safety the entire time. You have Ronnie Bell with room for some cartwheels, and I don't even know. He's just wide open. It's baffling that he didn't check over here. Running free over here, I'll move it forward a bit. The defender on him is clearly a step or two behind. This guy's in no man's land, so a throw over here would have made sense. But he decides to throw here for reasons unbeknownst to anybody. So definitely most frustrating pass out of Patterson. He had a good day. This was not a good decision.